Hi everyone, it is Ms. White, and I am here to do the VCE philosophy reading for Mill. This is the second reading of Mill. The first one is in Unit 3. So if you are looking for the Mill reading relating to belief, this is the video to be in. But if you are looking for the Mill video related to Unit 3 and freedom, there's another video on the channel. So this video here, I'm going to go through this is the last reading of the year, the last reading of Unit 4. So I will read through, talk through my annotations. I have tabbed it as responsibility and the disagreement key questions, and we're looking at On Liberty, Chapter 2 of the Liberty of Thought and Discussion. We have now recognized the necessity to the mental well-being of mankind, on which all their other well-being depends, of freedom of opinion and freedom of the expression of opinion on four distinct grounds, which we will now briefly recapitulate. So he's like, okay, we've already gone through, we know that freedom of expression and freedom of opinion is really important, so let's just revise this up here. And I've numbered these for you. So there are four distinct grounds. First, if any opinion is compelled to silence, that opinion may, for aught we can certainly know, be true. To deny this is to assume our own infallibility. So the first reason why freedom of opinion and freedom of expression of opinion is important is because we might miss out on some truth that does not get expressed. If we don't have freedom of expression and freedom of expression of opinion, we will miss out on some truth and we'll all be the worse for it. Secondly, though the silenced opinion be an error, it may, and very commonly does, contain a portion of truth. And since a general or prevailing opinion on any subject is rarely or never the whole truth, it is only by the collision of adverse opinions that the remainder of the truth has any chance of being supplied. So the second thing that he's saying is, okay, sometimes there are even opinions that are false, that if you don't have freedom of expression to express that false opinion, even though it's not a truth people are missing out on, it often does have some portion of truth, or it can be a sorry, let my brain just catch up. So, yes. So even opinions that are found to be false commonly contain a portion of truth that help refine our opinions, or the fact that it has some sort of portion of truth that we miss out on, or it has completely not truth, but that helps us re-solidify the truth. So not having freedom of expression stops us from achieving that. Thirdly, even if the received opinion be not only true, but the whole truth, unless it is suffered to be and actually is vigorously and earnestly contested, it will by most of those who receive it be held in a manner of prejudice, with little comprehension or feeling of its rational grounds. So the next one is, even if a view is completely true, it still needs vigorous challenging. That's why we need freedom of expression. We need people to challenge the views that we commonly hold. Even if they are true and they don't need challenging, they should be challenged so that we can get close and so that we don't view it prejudicially. Fourthly, the meaning of the doctrine, as in the doctrine of truth, itself will be in danger of being lost or enfeebled and deprived of its vital effect on the character and conduct, the dogma becoming a mere formal profession, efficacious, sorry guys, I don't know how to pronounce that one, by cumbering the ground and preventing the growth of any real and heartfelt conviction from reason or personal experience. So the last one there, truth is less effective in its role in society if there are restrictions on expression. That the doctrine itself, the doctrine of truth, will be lost if we can't have freedom of expression. So then the next section, though, so here are the four things that he's just summarized, the why freedom of expression is important. He's now going to go through where do we draw the line for freedom of expression. Before quitting the subject of freedom of opinion, it is fit to take some notice of those who say that the free expression of all opinions should be permitted on condition that the manner be temperate and do not pass the bounds of fair discussion. Much might be said on the impossibility of fixing where those supposed bounds are to be placed, For if the test be offence to those whose opinions attacked, I think experience testifies that this offence is given whenever the attack is telling and powerful, and that every opponent who pushes them hard and whom they find it difficult to answer appears to them, if he shows any strong feeling on the subject, an intemperate opponent. So Mill's like, okay, where do we draw the line for freedom of expression? Well, it can't be offense, because pretty much if it was people taking offense at what you said, and that is where we draw the line, like you can't say things that will offend people, then everything would, like every time that we have a disagreement, there is some offense, even to a small degree. So that can't be where we draw the line. But this, though an important consideration in a practical point of view, merges in a more fundamental objection. Undoubtedly, the manner of asserting an opinion, even though it be a true one, may be objectionable, and may justly incur severe censure. But the principal offences of the kind are such as it is mostly impossible, unless by accidental self-betrayal, to bring home to conviction. The gravest of them is to argue sophistically, to suppress facts or arguments, to misstate the elements of the case, or misrepresent the opposite opinion. So this is, I guess, a big no-no, is like arguing in a way that suppresses facts, giving that misinformation. I guess this is where we can connect to our area of study too. But all this, even to the most aggravated degree, is so continually done in perfect good faith by persons who are not considered, and in many other respects may not deserve to be considered ignorant or incompetent, that it is rarely possible on adequate grounds conscientiously to stamp the misrepresentation as morally culpable, and still less could law presume to interfere with this kind of controversial misconduct. So people often offend in good faith, believing it to be right, making them not legally or morally culpable. Stamp misrepresentation as morally culpable, and still less that could law presume to interfere with this kind of controversial misconduct. With regard to what is commonly meant by intemperate discussion, so discussion that isn't temperate, not moderated, not calm and collected, namely invective, sarcasm, personality, and the like. The denunciation of these weapons would deserve more sympathy if we were ever opposed to interdict them equally to both sides, but it is only desired to restrain the employment of them against the prevailing opinion. Against the unprevailing, they may not be used without general disapproval, but will be likely to obtain for him who uses the praise of honest zeal and righteous indignation. So we don't want to be sarcastic and invective and over the top with how we have our arguments and our disagreements. So this connects to our disagreement key question as well. But it's more likely to obtain him who uses them the praise of honest zeal and righteous indignation. So sarcasm is usually unacceptable towards unpopular or minority views. Therefore, it should also be unacceptable towards popular ones. And this is what he says a little bit lower down. Yet whatever mischief arises from their use is greatest when they are employed against the comparatively defenseless, and whatever unfair advantage can be derived by any opinion from this mode of asserting it accrues most exclusively to received opinions. The worst offence of this kind, which can be committed by a polemic, is to stigmatize those who hold the contrary opinion as bad and immoral men. To calumny of this sort, those who hold any unpopular opinion are peculiarly exposed, because they are in general few and influential, and nobody but themselves feel much interest in seeing justice done them. But this weapon is, from the nature of the case, denied to those who attack a prevailing opinion. They can neither use it with safety to themselves, nor, if they could, would it do anything but recoil on their own cause. In general, opinions contrary to those commonly received can only obtain a hearing by studied moderation of language and the most cautious avoidance of unnecessary language, from which they hardly ever deviate, even in a slight degree without losing ground. So we need to be, I guess, careful in how we use our language when we have disagreements with other people. We need to actually use a moderation of language. While unmeasured vituperation employed on the side of the prevailing opinion really does deter people from professing contrary opinions and from listening to those who profess them. For the interest, therefore, of truth and justice, it is far more important to restrain this employment of vituperative language. And on the other, and for example, if there were unnecessary to choose, there would be much need to discourage offensive attacks on infidelity than on religion. It is, however, obvious that law and authority have no business with restraining either, while opinion ought, in every instance, determine its verdict by the circumstances of the individual case, condemning everyone on whichever side of the argument he places himself, in whose mode of advocacy either want or candor or malignity, bigotry or intolerance of feeling manifest themselves, but not inferring these vices from the side which the person takes, though it be the contrary side of the question to our own, and giving merited honour to everyone, whatever opinion he may hold, who has calmness to see and honesty to state what his opponents and their opinions really are, exaggerating nothing to their discredit, keeping nothing back which tells or can be supposed to tell in their favour. So there was a little bit here about it's important to protect minority on this type of attack from the majority, so power and credibility not entirely destroyed. It's less important the other way round. So how do we deal with people with differing opinions? Rather than condemning meanness and intolerance, we should honour calmness, honesty, and lack of exaggeration when we have people who are disagreeing and when we are looking at opposite opinions. This is the real morality of public discussion, and if often violated, I'm happy to think that there are many controversialists who to a great extent observe it, and still greater number who conscientiously strive towards it. And that brings us to the end of that reading, a nice short one, but definitely relates to that final question about disagreement and how we should conduct ourselves in light of people with differing opinions to ourselves. I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. This is the last video of the year, so I hope they've been helpful, and have an excellent, excellent day and an excellent exam. Bye.